We've made it to March. 2 months of 2023 have passed us by. That means it's time to stop and rank all 5 new releases that I saw in February. Yeah, I only was able to see 5 new releases from the worst to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Let me know what's your ranking of the February movies that you saw, and if you saw a February new release that I missed that you think I might like, let me know about it down below in the comments section. The reason that I didn't see as many movies this month as I normally would have is that I did quite a bit of travel, both kind of in for personal life type things, as well as I went to Fan Expo Portland. So we're gonna talk about it live at Fan Expo Portland. I went to a live event with John Campea and Greg Alba and Christian Harloff in LA that I attended.
We had people who showed up who flew in. Actually, a fellow movie YouTuber, Sean Chandler, who does a lot of the fan expos and stuff like that. He's got a great channel. He flew in from Texas.
Then I came back to LA for the Hollywood Critics Association Awards show, which was my first big awards show that I've ever been to, first red carpet that I ever got to walk, and then did a collab with Greg from Real Rejects. And so just a bunch of really cool stuff has taken place in the month of February, but it meant I wasn't seated right here shooting videos, watching movies, all that fun stuff. So I'm back and ready to talk about what I did see. In last place, we have A Ghost, and this one was such a disappointment for me. It's from writer-director Christopher Landon, who previously did Happy Death Day and Freaky, and I thoroughly enjoyed his previous 3 films. I was very much looking forward to this one because he just had a really clever way of kind of taking these classic movie formulas, templates, and then doing the horror slasher version of them, and just made for really fun movies that were different enough but familiar enough that they're very accessible. So I was hoping that he'd find a way to do that with kind of the haunted house ghost stories and no, don't go! This movie did not work for me, and the big issue is that it's just trying to do way too many things, where it's a haunted house movie, but it's not really scary at all. It doesn't really even try to be scary. It's a comedy that only made me laugh a couple times. It tries to be kind of like a family drama, but the way that it does that with the dad in particular, it just makes him so unlikable that you just don't care about him at all. It has some interesting ideas about like what if there was a ghost in a house and how would social media respond? That's kind of interesting, but it's just like a piece of the story. And there's a lot of pieces of these things. And it feels like we're just hopping from different idea to different idea. And it's too scattershot for any of them to be executed properly or fully. So none of it really worked for me. Likewise, you got David Harbour in there, and he can't talk. He can just like move his face and make noises. And so you just can't even lose out on some of what David Harbour is so good at with, his comedic delivery and things like that, his sarcasm, and you just don't have any of it. So for me, this was a movie that maybe there was a good idea in there. In fact, there's like 3 good movies in there all squished together. And so for a movie that probably should be like 95 minutes, it's like 2 hours and 10 minutes. So it's too long. There's too much stuff, and none of it really worked for me. Number 4, Your Place or Mine. This is a Netflix original rom-com starring Reese Witherspoon and Ashton Kutcher. And it was kind of charming enough, but very much like with We Have a Ghost, the movie just had way too much in there. As I was watching it, I was talking to my wife like, this feels like this should have been a 10-episode season of television. There's just way too many subplots going on in here. The basic setup involves 2 friends that hooked up 20 years in the past that became lifelong friends, and they have feelings for each other, but they've never said anything.
What is all this? Peter's not interested in me like that, is he?
And then because of Reese Witherspoon's work, she needs to go to New York City. He lives in New York City, so he goes to LA where she lives to take care of her son. And each of them along the way have these whole journeys about their careers and how they're doing the wrong things while Reese Witherspoon is doing training for her current career. And then Reese Witherspoon's son is involved in it, and Ashton Kutcher's trying to like coach him and guide him. So there's like all of these different things going on where at its core, it's supposed to be romantic and a comedy. And because the two leads are on opposite ends of the country for 95% of the movie, their phone calls they're only connecting over phone calls. And likewise, the story's telling us about their relationship, telling us how they're good together, not actually showing them together. So the cast was fun. There's a bunch of ideas in here that I liked. Too many ideas in here that I liked. And because of that, it just didn't fully come together. I really think it would have worked better as like a 10-episode season of television where each episode could kind of develop some of these ideas as opposed to kind of just squishing it into one movie where it just feels overstuffed and unfocused. Number 3, Cocaine Bear, the tale of a bear who does cocaine. Now you can hear my full thoughts on this and a full discussion of it in a video posted a couple days ago with Mama Geeky Tessa Smith. That was a lot of fun. I actually got to go over to her house. We talked for like 2 hours about YouTube and about a bear doing cocaine, but the full thoughts are right up here. And if you want the quick version of it, I liked a third of this movie. A third of this movie had a bear doing cocaine, eating people.
The bear, it did cocaine.
I do cocaine! Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
And the other 2/3 of the movie spent a lot of time developing characters I just didn't care about. And some of that was kind of the fun and the quirkiness of it, of like learning about the cop's foo-foo-y dog that he has and which forest ranger likes which other person. Like, so random that it was mildly amusing. But it also meant that there's big stretches where no bears are doing cocaine and no bears are eating people, in which case I showed up for the wild, crazy antics of a bear on cocaine. And when those happen, when the bear does the cocaine and eats people, it is schlocky fun. Some of it's gnarly. The ambulance sequence that you see a little bit of in the trailer, that's a nice little sequence. Just like made me go, oh. There's some moments in this where stuff happens that's just shocking, over the top, gory, heads being blown off, eaten off, bitten off, all that fun stuff that I wanted, that the title of the movie and the trailer promised. I did get that stuff, but it's not spaced out too much. Especially in the first half of the movie, there was just a lot of like, all right, bad accents, goofy backstories, family drama, okay, whatever. Where's the bear doing cocaine? So I was real mixed on it. Like, I had fun with the schlocky stuff. I got that in scenes, but they're spaced out a little bit too much. And even on the script side to it, there was just some odd choices in like, there's some betrayals, twists, turns, and like as to which characters get away, which characters have justice, which characters have nothing happen to them at all, despite them doing terrible, terrible things. It just wasn't satisfying. It wasn't satisfying to have no repercussions for some of the choices that people made in a movie where you've given us a bear that can exact vengeance for the audience on those who do evil. And certain people, I just really felt the bear needed to eat them alive, and the bear did not. And that left me disappointed. Sometimes I just want to watch someone eaten alive by a bear that's hopped up on cocaine. I think we can all relate to that, and I was disappointed. There's a couple of these people that needed to die. Our runner-up, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. And while I had fun with this one, it was a pretty big disappointment at the same time. I was very excited to see Phase 5 of the MCU kicked off, very excited to see our introduction to Kang, and in certain senses, I got that. I got what I wanted, where the big bad is properly introduced, how he's a threat, what he has done, what he's looking to do. It set up this urgent, dangerous threat for the next 2 phases of the MCU. That's what I wanted. Likewise, as an Ant-Man film, it kind of was a little bit more important to the story as a whole and built some things out in ways that were very cool.
He will burn the world to find you. Who? The Conqueror.
And at the same time, as an Ant-Man movie, it felt like it lost all of the charm of the previous two films, that they were intentionally smaller scale, based around the family, and, MacGuffin stories about trying to get technology and doing heists. And then this one kind of went into the full world of spectacle, which some of it was fun and cool to see, but it also meant that it just kind of felt like all the other big spectacle films. Likewise, there was just something about the fact that the first two Ant-Man films, you're just running around San Francisco, that grounded it in a reality that you could connect with it. And then this one intentionally takes us off to a whole other realm. So it kind of creates that distance there that makes it a little bit more difficult to relate to where you buy into it. It has a believability to it. The other thing that made that complicated is that you've got Kang as this menacing villain with a big threat that tells no jokes, and he's working with MODOK, a floating head that is only jokes. He's the butt end of jokes. And it just felt like these two do not go together, and it goes so lowbrow, so corny with the MODOK jokes that it just kept pulling me out of the movie. Like, we're in the middle of the third act and it's cracking jokes while really intense stuff is happening. And that was just disappointing. And it feels like they're just repeating the same mistakes sometimes of overdoing the comedy because they don't trust their stories. Likewise, without going into the spoilers, the end of the movie really felt like it felt very limp. And like they nerfed it. They weren't afraid to really go there. They have the big stakes, danger, could Scott Lang. By the time you get to the end of it, they just nerfed any repercussions out of it. And the basic setup of the movie has some gigantic plot holes in the scheme of the MCU, since it involves Janet not wanting them to doodle around with the quantum realm when she was doodling around with the quantum realm in the post-credit scene of Ant-Man and the Wasp, which was a major plot point in Endgame. So I had fun with it. I enjoyed it. I liked that we're introducing Kang. Jonathan Majors did great. But it wasn't nearly as good as it should have been. But coming in first place is Knock at the Cabin. And this is a very low bar for a number one, to be perfectly clear. This is not like a B+, A- movie for me. This is like a B film. For this particular month, nothing blew me away. I didn't love anything that I saw this month. So February to me was a pretty low bar for the year thus far.
Not impressed.
But I did like a lot of this film. That it's very much a what would you do situation. What would you do film that proposes a scenario that if someone came to you, proposed a situation, what would you do?
Your family must choose to willingly sacrifice one of the three of you to prevent the apocalypse.
What would it take for you to believe them? And when the movie's in that mode, what would you do? How far would you go? What would it take? It's very effective. It's very tense, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. Dave Bautista continues to grow as an actor, giving more and more interesting performances. And you see that here in this film. And I dug all of that. It's also a movie that feels like it just kind of peters out at the end. M. Night Shyamalan films are known for their big twist endings where it pulls everything together. And a lot of times he swings for the fences. And if he hits it, wow, one of the great final twists of all time. And a lot of time it's a swing and a miss. And you're like, whoo, that didn't work. And this movie feels like it doesn't do anything. And it's not that I needed a twist. I didn't need like something that like turned everything on its head and made me rethink everything that I thought I knew about the plot of the movie. I didn't necessarily need that. But it gets to the end and it's like, oh, okay, that's it. And the credits roll. Felt like something was missing. It felt anticlimactic, in particular, in light of how big everything was, the potential stakes, whether personal or global, the implications of what's going on here. There's so many questions raised where it could have gone there. It could have done something bigger, more fantastical, more interesting. It feels like it just kind of peters out. That's frustrating, once again, because I was really tracking along with the first 85% of the movie. And it did a great job of building that tension, raising the questions, make me think through things. And it didn't do something that made me go, oh, it didn't do that. It just didn't do anything. It just kind of ended. That's disappointing, which leads to a very disappointing month because we've got a month where my number one film and number two films, not all that excited about them. Both of them had things I loved and a bunch of things I did not love. But nonetheless, Knock at the Cabin comes in at number one. Hey, I had a whole bunch of fun collaborations this week. You can check out a live stream I did with Greg from Real Rejects right over there. You can check out my review of Cocaine Bear with Mama's Geeky right down there. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.